a triple. Hey guys, welcome to episode 42 of CMD Towers, Brews, and Builds. I'm Mr. Combo number 5, and my fellow hosts may leave this cast and join the Vorthos cast based on the latest MTG Action 4 news. BigTuck, what's going on?
I have just completely forgot where this is going to fall in since we're doing it out of order, so I'm a little discombobulated from there. But no, I'm doing pretty good. Another solid week in quarantine. Actually left the house again last night. So I know it was a blowout, but no, it's been good. Just been super busy. Looking forward to the long weekend. So do you have Friday and Monday off?
So, I have Monday off, but the way that my company operates is we're all corporate workers that engage with customers. Right. So, if our customers aren't around tomorrow, then it's like we kind of get a vacation day without having to use a vacation day. So that's kind of where I'm at. Like, my morning's booked until noon, but I'm pretty sure after noon,
you're done.
I'm going to have nothing to do.
Ready to fire up the grill or just stay inside because it's supposed to be rainy and cold all weekend. So, just another banger here in Kansas City. So...
Yeah, well, do you have any big plans for the weekend?
No, I don't really. I don't. It's only
what? So you're not going to go into your 42 EDH decks and try to figure out what things from C20 you should put in there. Well, you have your C20 decks, right?
Yeah, funny story.
I think you should categorize your soul rings by set.
That's a good one. No, it really depends on the weather. So I realize I haven't brewed beer in a while, so I kind of want to do some of that. I got some board games planned for Saturday night, so. We'll see, but if it's gonna be cold and rainy, I don't know. I guess I can always clean my house for the first time in 2 months. So
that's always a thought.
It's getting a little. Yeah. I already cut my beard, so I already got that out of the way for something that's exciting to do over the weekend. But no, just chilling out, man. That's it.
Hey, Mr. Combo, what are you got up to? Oh, well, let me tell you.
I was gonna say,
so I think me and the GF, we're going to do a little Jackbox game night. Friday, Saturday, I don't know when. It kind of depends on when a couple of her friends can come over. We kind of figured we'd dip our toe into the whole starting to actually see people in IRL. And I went ahead and picked up $40 worth of hand sanitizer, which you think I'd overpay, but it was literally just a small jug.
Wait, did you get that? Okay, which one did you get? Because I've gotten 2 hand sanitizers, both of which are made by local distilleries.
Yes.
Had to throw one out because it smelled so bad. And then the other one I literally used as a starter on my fire pit that I built. I'm convinced it's grain alcohol.
I think it is grain alcohol. It's the leftover alcohol that they use to make their gin.
You got it from a distillery. What do you expect?
Yeah. So I got a jug of the Riegers. And then I got a little bottle of this other distillery that's a hand sanitizer spray, which was confusing. So I went to spray my hands and I went to rub.
Maced yourself by accident?
I didn't do that, but I sprayed and I was like, wait, my hands aren't wet. What am I rubbing in? And so then I just had to sit there and spray it.
It's not wet.
Like it was no, it just it was so, it hit and evaporated.
Yeah, it's just alcohol.
Yeah.
So, it just goes...
So I know all the people out there in the world whinge about how bad gentrification is. I will say this. Guess who had plenty of hand sanitizer? Whole Foods. Piles of it. Piles of it lying around. In portable and, dare I say, good-smelling varieties.
I mean, you can buy hand sanitizer at the Quick Trip counter, and for those playing the home game, that's a local gas station around here. But
what about what if you only shop at Casey's?
Well, I'm sure that you can buy it.
Then your hand sanitizer is breakfast pizza. All right, moving on. Thanks for tuning in to our cast, and this was only able to happen by our awesome audio producer, Squee McGee, and his production company, Rich Chaos Records, here in It Doesn't Matter. It's somewhere in the Midwest, Kansas City. What's going on, McGee, Squee?
Hey, boys. I'm doing all right. I'm ready to get out and see some people. Let's hang out. Let's do some things. Mr. Combo's doing a little dance. I'll get in there. I'll shake the booty. It'll be fun.
Commit some felonies. Start a riot. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows?
The sky's the limit.
Some people flip over cars and set them on fire. I'm going to just kick over a stick.
Yeah.
Watch out.
Suck on that, nature. You think you're better than me because you're outside?
I'm going to be walking around with a 12-pack of beer just causing mischief. Anyways, I'm doing pretty well.
Oh, God. He's full Kid Rocking it.
Oh, no. Not until I put it on the tank top. Then we'll get it going. Anyways.
Lord.
Are you gonna turn your ponytail into a pony mullet for the summer? I think that should be your big plan.
I mean, a long hair is kind of a mullet already, isn't it?
No, because it's supposed to be business in the front, party in the back.
Tell me what you see right now, because it looks like a lot of business going on right here.
I mean, I'm more seeing like Dracula in the front and maybe party in the back.
Hey, I'll take that. That's fine.
It's a tight ponytail.
I've moved on from being Elvish Squee, and then I've turned into Dracula Squee, I guess. Or what is the new name? Instigator Squee. I like that one. That's going to be a good one. I'm going to start causing a ruckus.
I'm just going to be dropping fingers on everybody.
Well, if you guys want to know more ways to support Squee's Bloodlust and the CMD Tower team and all the content we put out, head over to our sponsor, Level1GameShop.com. They sell magic accessories like the awesome CMD Tower playmat and Matt Hunter Plank sleeves. Please go buy them for the love of Christ. They're taking up my basement. I need them gone. You can use them as shelter blankets. They also have a sweet TCG player store with over 99% accuracy rating and super competitive prices. Also, another way to support the cast is head over to our Patreon, patreon.com/CMD Tower. We have 4 different pledge levels, and rewards vary from just getting access to. It seems like the Discord's heating up a little bit.
I think we're kind of bringing it back.
It's coming back.
I think it's kind of shrugging off its slump, and I think we're putting a little more effort into it, keeping a little. Well,
I think it's more the collective died off because quarantine opened up a little bit, and they're like, "Wait, the world sucks. Let me go back into the Savage Discord." And then, of course, another thing you can get in there is a guest spot on the show, get your own set of CMD Tower playmat and sleeves, and even help us get to our stretch goal to actually feature one of you, the collective, on the Brews that build.
Woo.
Of course, the free way to share the content you're already watching or listening to is just do that. Whether it's Facebook, Instagram, Reddit, MySpace, Zynga. I know it doesn't exist, but I hold on that it'll come back.
I did. I don't, but I was going to say that some of our, I noticed that we got some traction on our LiveJournal page, so that's a real exciting thing to see.
Ooh, check that out. And moving on, every little bit of interaction from the collective helps. We're on a tear. We're doing terrible. And of course, every episode we do want to give a big shout out to the now defunct Pink Royal. Could they be back? Could they be an October 2020 horror film? Who knows? They may rise from the dead. But until then, stay tuned so you can get details on how you can win a Mystery Commander 20 deck, playmat, and sleeves from Level 1 Game Shop.
I guess we'll just have to wait till September ends.
Oh, gosh. Isn't that like a terrible punk rock? Oh, there we go. Oh, man. Squee, you remember that concert?
Me?
That concert was terrible.
No, Squee.
It was brilliant.
No, the fact that you and not friend of the cast Davis abandoned me and Ian.
No, we did not. We just told you we weren't coming, and then we showed up anyways to get you all riled up. It was great.
That actually is a pretty good bit.
And then when we got there...
No, it wasn't a good bit because we had like backstage passes and like pre-recording stuff.
Oh, it was hilarious.
It killed
and
me.
Then the Green Day singer, was it Billy Joe? Like the entire concert, he was just doing a callback with the crowd going, "Hey-oh," and just waiting for him to go back every song.
Well, and don't worry, his pants
just come out.
I guess.
Well, and then his pants were halfway down his butt with no underwear, so that was a sight to see.
Anyways, we had a great time.
So anyways, Brews and Builds is our deck tech series. Jesus. It's all about the decks that BigTuck and I have. Path to 32. Each podcast, we're going to talk about one of these Path to 32 decks, but hey, in a cool manner of laughing hysterically. So we broke it down into 4 categories. The first one's rampant setting your board state. That's the grain bill.
Yes, the grains are the foundation of any beer. They usually come in both base malts and specialty malts, usually in a 60-40 ratio. This helps with the color, taste, and most importantly, alcohol content of a beer, unless your brew shop screws up your order and junks an entire bin of it.
Whoops.
Decks are good ways to grow, stabilize, and ramp into your bigger threats, and just like a grain profile, they're usually a mix of staples and specialty cards.
And then the next one's going to be how does your board interact with the rest of the board? That's the hop profile.
And hops give the beer its patented bitterness and herbal floral flavors that grow in a variety of strands and help distinguish subcategories like IPAs. Our hop choices help clear and interact with the board so your deck can do what it wants.
Eventually, games got to end. You got to be able to win or at least accomplish what your deck wants to do. We're calling that yeast.
And yeast are living microorganisms that eat the sugar from the grain and poop out alcohol and CO2. It adds the alcohol content and the carbonation. Without the yeast, you'd be drinking flat sugar water, and without yeast cards in your deck, it would meet the goal of winning the game.
And then to wrap up the deck brew, we have shenanigans. These could be pet cards and synergies that are in the deck that are just kind of fun. We're calling that a spice package.
Yes, and not every beer has them, and sometimes our decks don't have any, but this one actually had some juicy targets to talk about. But spices and other additives help separate a normal stock beer from a specialty one. It could be the pepper that turns a stout into a jalapeno stout, or the addition of dry hops that turns an IPA into a dry hopped IPA. Not every deck has something that makes it pop, but if it does, is where we talk about it.
And then to seal up the episode, we have a bottle capping. These are going to be BigTucks and myself, some recommendations to the deck that are under $5, under $50, and a personal recommendation that has no budget. The only restriction is no mana-only lands. So without further ado, let's get brewing.
Let's do it.
Today, we're talking about another special from the Mr. Combo number 5 Money Vault. We got another $5 deck coming your way. We're talking about JODAH'S Infinity Gauntlet. So this is my JODAH deck. I kind of am original in this because I did build it within like 2 to 3 weeks of it coming out.
Sure.
It is the number 15th ranked commander on EDH Rec in the last 2 years.
Really?
Yeah, super popular. So before I kind of go into why I decided to go with JODAH route, BigTuck, why don't you read what JODAH does?
Yes, JODAH is a human wizard that is a colorless and Jeskai that is blue, red, and white. He's a legendary creature, human wizard. He's a 4/3 flyer, which I've seen actually matter once or twice.
I know.
It can be relevant, but most importantly, you may pay Wooburg, that is white, blue, black, red, and green, rather than pay the mana cost for spells that you cast. Chronicles across the ages describe JODAH. They likely refer to not one mage, but to a family or an arcane title. And that's from
basically his ability is a card called, I assume you're not talking about it.
Absolutely not.
Fist of Suns.
It is.
He is Fist of Suns on a creature, very much like, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, didn't the Simic, oh gosh, what is it? The Simic, not food chain. I'm drawing a blank. Birthing Pod, the Simic Birthing Pod, didn't that come out in the same set?
The gal? No, she came out in Ravnica.
Oh, Ravnica. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, basically, there's a trend, though, with Wizards of, hey, there's an artifact or enchantment with this effect. Let's put it on a creature.
Absolutely.
That'll make it fair.
The only thing I was going to say with Fist of Suns is that there was a minute where it skyrocketed to like close to $20, and it's kind of settled closer to like $6, $7, so that's something of note as well. Especially now in this insane price.
What was that World Tutor thing? Oh my God.
Yeah. Or how about Gaia's Cradle being $550?
Jesus.
What the hell?
It's insane.
I know. I just sell all 4 of mine and go get a judge promo and then proxy it into every deck.
Just build another one of your decks.
Yeah, I literally almost bought a Worldly Tutor last like 2 or 3 weeks ago for like $14.
Well, don't you feel silly?
Yep. Yeah, should have jumped on it, I guess.
So this deck kind of came into existence because Command Clash, MTG Goldfishes, Friday night kind of MTGO paper online fight. Tomer, the great budget builder himself, actually did a JODAH deck when Dominaria came out a couple years ago. But his is usually more on the budget range.
Correct.
And I actually built mine initially on budget, but I probably changed, 15-ish% of the cards. But I definitely called it Tomer's 5 CMC or 5 color influence. That was the original name of the deck. But I've had the deck now for so long, and I've tricked it out more than Tomer does with his traditional decks that it's kind of become its own identity. And so that's why I called it the Infinity Gauntlet, because I am an MCU whore. I'll admit it. Major facts. I'll watch all the bad ones and then defend the bad ones. So that's kind of how the deck came into existence. And I will say this deck is probably the one deck that I have the most fun playing every time I play it, because I always feel like I don't win in a different way, but how I get to the win is always different every time I play it. Tuck, you've been on the receiving end of this deck many times.
Yeah.
How do you feel about this deck?
This is not probably my least favorite deck that you have outside of maybe Azorius.
No way.
It's up there. Yeah, I mean, I think it's good. It doesn't seem, we kind of talked about, and you had the same comment for me with Selvala, where it kind of turns into like and the kitchen sink, right? Like this deck, just like the theme of it, if you will, is just like high CMC ish. But like beyond that, it's just kind of, to me, it kind of feels like a and win more sort of deck. In terms of like, there's a sub theme that I like in it, which we'll get into a little bit later. But like, it just kind of seems like I'm gonna play the big powerful stuff and go from there. So
no, I think that's fair. I mean, granted, and you kind of alluded to it, the CMC on the deck, guys. Hold your pants.
This is the best. This is the best part of the deck right here.
6.3 CMC,
shattering the previous home record, which I think was like 4.5, maybe.
If that.
Yeah, tops.
Prohibitive.
But it's
can we say woof?
Yeah, woof indeed. Yeah, that's awesome. And if you look at the curve, it's like everything above 6 that rounds it out. Like everything below is just like rampant artifacts. I think that is pretty funny. The other thing that's funny about it is the price, aka not funny at all. So we haven't done this in a while because we haven't talked about a deck that's this ridiculous. But if we're going off the TCG player low, it's about $2,500, and it has a curve up to about $4,100. So I did a little research on the interwebs, which I've been told is a
so what celebrity can I get for $4,100?
We'll get to that, and spoiler alerts, it's several. So for the low price of $2,500, that's $2,500. You can get 3,750 rolls of toilet paper, which in effect is new money.
Pretty good.
And then you can also get 698 pounds of Walmart thick cut bacon. So you'd be set there for a while, especially if you salt it. And then because we live in a horrible crap sack world, there's an app called Cameo where you can pay usually washed up celebrities to record like a "Merry Christmas, Catherine," or "Hey, I'm Mark McGrath from Sugar Ray, and I'm gonna break up with you, guy. Sorry about that." So through Cameo, you can get one personalized message from the following people in pop culture. Number 1, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, the noted sports ball player.
Yeah, why not?
The noted, I think he's pretty much well known for his Copper Guard sponsorship and being the face of that. Brett Favre. He might be a sports person. You can also get one from Mariano Rivera, who I have no idea who that is.
That is a pitcher for the Yankees in the past. Actually, quite a good pitcher.
And then, shockingly, one of the highest actors on here to pay to do this, Wesley Snipes, who I've heard through the...
Is that really surprising? I've heard he's in financial challenges.
That's true. He evidently thought that you didn't have to pay the IRS, that was just some sort of scheme. So anyways, for $500 for each one of them, you could get a personalized message from them. And then if you really want to splurge, for $450, you can get one from Urlacher, the famous linebacker from the Chicago Bears. So...
Wow.
Everyone spends their money in their own ways, and some people choose to do it in a handful of cardboard.
So basically what I'm hearing is if I traded in this deck, I could get all 5 of them to do a combined personalized message for me.
Correct, yes.
Mr. Combo, I got a tip for you. I have, oddly enough, a autographed baseball from Mariano Rivera that I'll trade you for the deck.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen.
Did you know who he was? I've never heard of him.
Yeah, he's a closer.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
He's a Hall of Famer.
I mean, I'm not a huge baseball fan. I've just seen him on ESPN. I think he retired like 5 years ago, 6 years ago, something like that.
Commentary or whatever?
Yeah, I got one at Kauffman Stadium at the bullpen. They signed him and threw him up over to the kids over the fence.
Oh, that's nice. What a pleasant story. Unlike the deck, which is the thing of nightmares. The only other thing I'll say on it is, for how expensive your land base is, your color distribution is kind of off in terms of black.
No, it's really if you think about it, it's actually not that bad.
Right. So should it be perfectly even across the board for JODAH's ability?
Not really, because you need a little bit more green to ramp to get those extra lands. Yeah. And one of the things that I would say about this deck is I think I've been able to play it enough to where I have it built, and this was by accident, not because I'm a great deck builder, but if I don't have JODAH out, I really don't care.
Yeah.
Because I can usually, and I think both of you guys have seen this deck enough to where it's like, get rid of JODAH, and it's like, well, I still got 9 mana out on turn 5.
And you got like some good mana doublers in here, and that sort of stuff too. So
it really doesn't impact me not to have JODAH. I think JODAH is more there as, I think you would describe JODAH as almost like and this could be sacrilegious, but Golos. Golos is a good effect, but you don't build the deck where you usually say top down, where it's like if you don't have Jodah, it doesn't function. Because my deck functions without Jodah.
I think it just functions
fine.
like probably 50% better with him if he doesn't just keep getting blasted.
I wouldn't say honestly. I wouldn't say 50% because I usually don't have 10 plus mana out. So usually I'm only casting one thing off Jodah, and that's it. So it's like, okay, I cast that 8 or 9 for 5, and then maybe I have 3 or 4 left over, and I can kind of scare people with some instant speed stuff. But no, I mean it's been a fun deck. I'm excited. I actually requested that we do it this week because we've had some exciting releases here in the last few weeks with Ikoria, all the ultimatums. See if any of those have a home. And you know what's funny? I didn't pick anything for my Ikoria for any of my ads.
Damn it!
But I picked all the stuff that's come out.
I'll get us covered there then. So
yeah, I picked that stuff that had come out in the last year.
Because I guarantee you buy your box and everything.
Yeah, so I picked out stuff from the last year because there was actually a bunch of cards that came out that was just like, holy shnikes, this would be amazing in here. And I have extra copies laying around the basement. Sweet. So it's like, as soon as we get done doing this, if you're like, oh yeah, slam dunk, I can just go swap them. So I'm super, super pumped to talk about it. All right, well, without further ado, guys, let's get brewing. We'll start off the Rampant Grain build with myself. So this is a card that I think only works in a Jodah deck. I don't see it working in any other deck.
I think I have this one too. This is one of my favorite ones. Is it a sorcery?
It is.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, there's only like 4 of them in the deck, so and I'm guessing we're not talking about cultivate.
Are you want to gamble on this?
Oh yeah.
All right. 3, 2, 1. Interpret the signs. Yeah! Let's get it.
Yeah, it really. I think I have that in my notes too. I'm pretty sure this is the only thing it works in. So.
So Interpret the Signs, guys. It's 5 colorless blue. It's a sorcery from original Theros, 49 cents for a foil copy.
I was gonna say that's a foil, so watch out.
And it has an effect, which is really cool, and it would be great if it worked in other decks. It just doesn't.
It's too expensive, yeah.
Yeah, scry 3, then reveal the top card of your library. Draw cards equal to that card's converted mana cost.
Yeah, it's so great. I like
it's
the fact,
so good.
I think it works really well in this deck, even if you have to hard cast it, because you're going to draw up to any threats that you need. The other thing I like about it too is it could have been look at the top 3 cards of your deck and then rearrange them and then reveal, right? But the fact that it's scry, where you're the chances of you hitting something that'll at least get you cards back for the amount of money you paid into it, especially when your curve is this absurdly high, is pretty high. And in a pinch, it kind of can help. If you are kind of stuck and you don't have much to do, you can kind of use this to curve out to ramp into something that you can actually cast potentially, right? If you only have 5 or 6 mana, and Jodah's been nipped a couple times. This is one that's really cool. I like the design of it. I think it's really exciting. I like the fact that it's variants. This is a card that really can push this deck where it needs to go, even if you're paying. And the best part is, even if you look at the curve, even if you're not paying Jodah for it, you're only missing out on 1 mana. So it even fits that bill as well. So 6 mana, draw a bunch of cards, and you're off to the races.
Yeah, 100%. Because I mean, if you guys think about it, turn 6 or 7, whatever, you play this. Maybe you didn't have a land drop. You didn't save the 1 mana. But then who cares? You scry 3, and maybe it was 3 lands, and you're like, you know what? I don't really need these lands because I still got a land in hand, or I got a Chromatic Lantern out. I'll put them, or even if you don't have a land in hand and you missed your land drop, and it's like, you know what? I'll put the 3 on the bottom and I'll roll the dice because I guarantee you the odds for me to get a 4 or bigger. And then
you just flip over.
Sorry. 6 or bigger, because the curve starts at 6. It's just you're going to draw into another land.
And then you just flip over and it's another land. The nightmare version
considering I have, and the crazy thing is, and I thought this was kind of shocking, considering I have a lot of land tutors in this deck. I got 37 lands in here, so you're gonna be, you could scry away 3 lands, and I guarantee you the next 5, 6, 7 cards you're gonna get is gonna be a land.
Yeah, you'll be good.
But a lot of times I've done this and been able to win the game because it's okay. I do this. I got almost another Wooburg set up. I just need that 1 extra land, and I'm hoping I get into one of these Yeast cards that let me just cascade and just go banana hammock. So cool. Well, what is your second ramp card?
So this is a well-known card, and I don't think that we've actually ever talked about it. So this is like probably the best mana dork that you could have in a deck like this.
Oh, sure.
And I don't know if we've ever talked about it. So real quick and easy, Bloom Tender. So colorless,
so good.
Colorless and green for an elf druid. It's a 1/1. It's a rare from Eventide, I think. So pretty straightforward. Tap for each color among permanents you control. Add 1 mana of that color to its mana pool. So it already pays for itself. It's gonna get you, especially in this deck, 3
piles,
4, maybe more. It kind of rhymed there. That was pretty sweet. So it's like a kind of this is borderline, like I use the term staple here in the sense that everyone who plays Commander knows about this card, right? Like they know what a Bloom Tender is, they want one. And I was looking and I was like, did the price finally drop on it? And it sort of did, but not really. So $33 for the mystery booster. But here's the insane version of it. The original printing foil is $220. Like, it's insane. So this would be like a great pull if you got it out of a mystery booster or something like those lines. But overall, just like a really strong card. If you get the Wooburg out, if you have things that tap for those colors, you get a free activation off of Jodah. Go off to the races there. So it's just tons of utility.
And you know what's great is I actually got a Bloom Tender for... Gosh, what deck was it? I think I got it for my CEDH deck. I traded Forrest Day 2 Wong for it because he pulled one in his mystery boosters.
Oh, nice.
And actually, I think I gave him like $25, $30 for it.
Sure.
So, got a hell of a deal there. And this is a card that, we kind of talk about sometimes on this cast or stream, however you want to talk about it, how modality is big. Mm-hmm. And I think modality goes 2 ways. One, to where you're making the decisions, and then 2, where you're forcing your opponents to make the decisions. Right. And this is the kind of card that you can put down turn 2 or 3, and now you've put the modality in your opponent's hands where it's like, gosh, do I waste a murder or an exile on this? Or do I wait for them to put out the big scary thing and do that to that? But then it's like, well, if I do that, then they could just Wooburg again next turn. And, I'm kind of stuck in this rut of every turn they have, they're going to get something scary out. So it's definitely one of the cards that will make your opponents kind of sit up straight, but they aren't going to necessarily pull the execution trigger on it.
Unless they're a good EDH player and they're just running lightning bolts in all their decks, which you should be. So and then this thing just gets blasted. So Bloom Tender, like I said, there's not a lot to say about it, but we just haven't had the chance to talk about it. It's just such a great card in this format.
Well, to follow up with that, I'm going to talk about Bloom Tender number 2, Pharaoh Elder.
Yeah!
So this is basically awesome. Bloom Tender Silencia. Yeah. And the only downside is you have to pay an extra white for it. So it's a colorless green-white Treefolk Druid from Throne of Eldraine, $2.23, decently budgeted enough.
Yes, totally.
And it has Vigilance, and it gets +1/+1 for each color among permanents you control. So right off the bat, it's a 2/2, because it comes in as a 0/0. But then it says tap, and for each color among permanents you control, add 1 mana of that color. Basically, Bloom Tender on a Silencia creature.
I honestly like this card more than Bloom Tender, even though it costs 1 more. I like the price.
Because it can get in the red zone.
It can get in the red zone. You can kind of wait to do stuff on your second main phase. It can block, I don't know. I just like this card a lot. We talked about it.
What do you mean you can wait on Bloom Tender to do stuff in your second main phase?
Yeah, but it's also
you're talking about the Vigilance.
1/1 can't block if you don't have anything else to do. Whereas Pharaoh, it just has a lot more utility to it. Again, it's kind of like we talked about, more of a modal card. And for me, a $2 price tag, I would happily buy. Think about this: you could buy 20 of these for 1 Bloom Tender, put them in every single Celestia deck that you could ever think of.
Yeah, but no, so that would not be good in a Sludsian deck. I would not put that in a Sludsian deck.
I guess it doesn't really have any value.
Because then it's a 2/2 for 3 that taps for 2.
Any three color deck that has creatures in it that runs green and white, this goes in my opinion.
Yeah.
For the budget,
right.
If you can't go running around buying Bloom Tenders left, right, and center, so I'm a huge fan of Pharaoh.
What is your last one?
My last one is one of the cards that I'm very proud that you've kept in, and it's kept in this long, because this is the kind of card, in my opinion, that this deck should be running. We're talking Nezahal Primal Tide, baby. This card is sweet. Okay. 5 colorless blue for legendary creature Elder Dinosaur. Cannot be countered. You have no maximum hand size, which actually is super relevant in this deck, which we can get through. Whenever an opponent casts a non-creature spell, draw a card. And then discard 3 cards, exile it, return to the battlefield tapped under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step, which you probably will never use. But the fact that you can get this down for cheaper than its cost, can't be countered, so it's a beater. Great blocker. Helps you out with your reliquary stuff, because you draw a gazillion cards in this deck through all the different ways that you can do it. And also continues filling your hand. The times where I have seen this deck stutter a little bit is when you run out real quick. And then you're you're kind of sitting there and you're like, okay, Baleful Force, or okay, some sort of other horrible androgynous thing. And you're like, land, damn it. Whereas this thing, I think, kind of smooths it out. Moreover, I like it because it's a fun card that's not played very often. And in this big CMC thing, it's just fun to see these kind of things, right? So in my opinion, if you're building a Jodah deck, this is if it was me doing it, these are the kind of cards I'd put in here that are a little overcosted maybe, but serve a purpose.
But here's the thing, it's a $4 card.
Yeah.
If you're building a Jodah deck and you're not trying to spend the money that I've put into this deck, you don't put a Nazal Primal Tide in it. There are other overcosted cards that are cheaper than $4 that do better. The issue I have with this card, because I'm cutting it in the capping, just saying it's because whenever an opponent casts a non-creature spell, draw a card, so it's cool, they see this, they see I have the no maximum hand size, they see the value. Well, I'll go ahead and get rid of it now. What am I going to do? Draw a card, then discard 3 just to save it? Absolutely not. Not going to happen, because like you said, I don't have 3 cards to usually discard.
Right, but they're also burning a removal on this thing, which would then let you open up for another thing, draw into it. I just think it's. I'd rather get a different card draw engine in the deck than this. I mean, I'm not doing it for one of my ads, but Aristic Study would be better than this. Yeah, it's so boring though. Come on,
how is this any better?
It's a bad card that does something different that you don't see played.
It's a bad card.
You're a bad card. All right, what do you got for your last one?
I am a bad card. All right, well, my last one is another fun card, and it gives me modality, which has actually mattered so many times when I've played this deck. We're talking about Ancient Excavation. 2 color. I
think you're right on this card. We've talked about this before, and I think you're right. I think this is a sleeper for sure.
2 colorless Dimir, blue-black. It's an instant, which is huge, and it's only $1.18. Very cheap. Draw cards equal to the number of cards in your hand, then discard a card for each card drawn this way. But here's why I'm white hot on this card in this deck. It's not great for every deck, but I do think this is a card that can find home in other Dimir decks that are running black and blue. Basic land cycling. Yeah. Pay 2 colorless, discard it, and go get a basic land to your hand. It can color fix you when you need it most.
Definitely.
But then late game, and it's you know what? I got 6 lands in hand, or I got 4 lands in hand. Pitch them, see what I get. I really like this card. The only thing that would technically be better than this, but it would just make the budget skyrocket, and I don't want to put that kind of money into the deck, would be a Wheel of Fortune. Kind of accomplishes
put that kind of money in the deck, as he says, it's a $4,100 deck.
Yeah, I'm not putting that kind of money in there.
The only thing I don't like about this deck is that the fact that it is basic land cycling. I think you only have 2 of each basic land. So
correct. I mean, that's 10
true,
out of 37.
But you also have your cultivates and Kodama reaches and stuff. So that's the only thing I don't like about it. But beyond that, like you said, if you get it early and you need the fixing, it's there. If you get it late, you can bin it. This card's great. So I'm totally on board with it.
But I think where that argument kind of falls a little short when you only got the 10, you got the Kodama's Reach and the Cultivates. Sure. If you've already spent those to go get it, you're so far ahead land-wise, you would never use it for basic land cycling. You would just use it for the effect. Yeah. Hey guys, well that's going to wrap up the Rampant Grain Bill. Now we're going to head over to the board state and hot profile. BigTuck, why don't you start us off? What's your first one you want to talk about?
All right, we're starting with another kind of sleeper hit, which is awesome and plays perfectly into this deck. He's got some tusks, and he's not afraid to use them. We're talking about Archetype of Endurance. So
yes, we are.
Attaboy. I knew you couldn't resist it.
Well, usually you don't go for the cards I can't resist.
I knew you wanted to talk about it because I've seen it work.
It's not because I want to talk about it. I think it's just a card I never see played, and people should know about it.
I don't have it. I completely agree with that, and especially before the price goes up again. So I'll read the soft stuff, and then you can read what's in the box. So Archetype of Endurance is a 6 colorless green enchantment creature boar that's a 6/5.
And it says, creatures you control have hexproof. Creatures your opponents control lose hexproof and can't have or gain hexproof.
Oh god, it's so good.
Despite its fearsome stature, it is as elusive as a shadow, circling round to stalk those who presume to haunt it.
I believe that's hunted, but...
Yeah, well, it's very small text on a very big screen.
Looks like you, sir, also could use some sex.
Anyways, very sweet card.
It's so great. Like, even paying 8 for it is good enough, but the fact that you can pay...
Well, it's overcosted. For what it does,
I agree with that. But if you're playing, like, a mono green deck where you don't care about that, or if you're playing the deck that can ramp up, well worth the price. However, paying 5 for this is insane. Right?
Yeah.
Like, this deck, most of the time, does kind of get in the red zone, like, at least the ways when it's fun to win, or when it's fun to see it win, when it's getting in the red zone and beating face. So you want to make sure that you want to protect your creatures from exile, from board wipes, and that sort of thing. Well, I guess it doesn't do board wipes, but targeted removal. And again, I think it kind of makes your opponents have to think more critically about how they're going to stop you, right? So
100%.
In that sense, it is like I kind of like this idea, like I think we just discovered on this very podcast, of like these like opponent modality cards, right? Like, so this helps you a lot, right? But when you play this, it doesn't really do anything for you immediately.
It doesn't win you the game. Like, we talk about 7+ mana cards should win you the game. Yeah. This does not win you the game, but it forces your opponents to be like, damn.
Like, now
how do I do this?
Right.
Yeah.
So I do think that this deck also, once it kind of gets going, people start realizing that you can kind of become the arch enemy pretty quick. So this is another thing where it's like people are gonna have to like work together to try to figure out, how do we burn this? How do we get rid of this one thing just so we can have a chance in this deck? Just really cool, and it's kind of crazy. I think it's been climbing a little bit. It's $1.78, which is pretty nuts for an uncommon from Journey to Nyx. So I like it. I think it's a really cool card. All these archetype cards are really interesting, but yeah, so just had to talk it out here.
Cool. Well, I don't have anything else to add to that. Tuck filled in the gaps. So my next one is a very overcosted card, but that's what Jodah does. We're talking about Dread Cacodemon.
2 for 2, baby.
Is that yours too?
Yes, sir. I didn't think you would actually.
All right.
The first one I chose is like, Mr. Combo's probably gonna get in on that one. But this one I actually just chose because it's hysterical. Because it's so expensive.
Now, you're going to suck it because I'm going to read the outside box and you can read the tiny print. So Dread Cacodemon is 7 colorless, black, creature demon, rare, and it's an 8/8 for $3.
Yeah. It has no evergreen abilities, which is kind of funny. But when it enters the battlefield, if you cast it from your hand, destroy all creatures your opponents control, then tap all other creatures you control. Wahoo! Oh no! Those who hear its roar perish. The lucky ones only feel its fetid breath.
Nice.
Just like you and Newt. You can only feel its breath. Oh god.
So, this deck has multiple of these overcosted one-sided board wipes. But if you think about it, they're not overcosted. 9 times out of 10, these are the few cards that I will say I never hard cast for whatever it is. Right. These are only Jodah cheats. Sure. So 5 mana for this is humongous. Oh, it's so good. And a lot of times the way that I sequence it is I will swing with 2 or 3 big beaters, and people will be like, you know what? I'm going to let it go through because I'm going to try to swing out and kill you next turn. Yeah. And then so my guy's tapped, then he casts this, and they're like, well, fish, sticks, and shenanigans. I should have saved my 9 life.
Have you ever hard casted this, ever?
No.
Well, okay. It's cool.
There's another similar one that I have hard casted, like in the deck, but this specific one I haven't.
Yeah, 10 for, and it's so strange. Like, I don't understand how this is $3 because it's 10 mana for an 8/8. That's a board wipe one time with no evergreen abilities, no evasion. Yep. This just gets chumped by zombies all day, right? And like, I guess the idea being that there's not a zombie to chump, or like, I guess the real idea is like if you're casting this, it's gonna be late enough in the game where like you should have the board ready ready to go swing through. But maybe it's only been printed a handful of times. I'm not particularly sure there. Just kind of struck me as odd that it was $3 when this seems to me like a bulk rare at best. But what are you gonna do?
What are you gonna do? Well, BigTuck, what is your last one? Let's see if we go 3 for 3.
It might be, now that I'm thinking about it, and I didn't intend to do this at all. So this card is one of the ones that I like the most because of how you chose to play them. It's a tribal card that I think is awesome. Okay, no, it's not. Okay, so we're talking about one of the spirit cards. We're talking about Mugen of Knights Reach. Card's great.
Great card.
It's so great. So 5 colorless, 3 black. It's a legendary creature, spirit, from the much-loved Kamigawa block. Hashtag sarcasm.
Much love.
Hashtag blasted. Hashtag this.
Hashtag it's $5.
Hashtag that's insane. Hashtag this should be a spirit tribal deck. When it comes into play, with a divinity counter on it if you played it from your hand. It's indestructible as long as it has a divinity counter on it, and you can remove a divinity counter from it, and each opponent discards his or her hand. So like it's just, so if you can get there where you can get like a turn 4 Jodah and then get this turn 5 and then do that, it's so backbreaking. Like it's so hard to come back from that early in the game. I tried to run this as a commander for a while. That don't work.
Sounds like a bad idea.
It was a terrible idea. It was in my mono black deck that I think's had 15 commanders at this point. Now he's in the 99 because it still feels great to cast him. He's a great blocker. Again, and this is like the fact that you can do the divinity counter at any time makes it just a total rattlesnake card, right? Like, sure, keep him up as a 5/2 blocker with indestructible, and then you're just like, yeah, it's like, hey, the rattlesnake of our play group, just a bunch of what do they call those?
So you know what's funny is there was a time with this deck that there was like 3 or 4 weeks in a row when I first built it, and these Mugen of cards just wrecked. Were taking off their divinity counters and doing stuff. So I actually tried to put in. There's an artifact out there, I believe, that adds divinity counters to creatures, and I thought about going this like divinity counter Mugen route.
I love that idea.
But that's a bad deck.
I would say, like, all joking aside, Spirits Tribal is decidedly not great. But like, I do like the fact that you have kept 3 of them out of 5 in, I think, right?
Yeah.
So they just do a lot of stuff, man. Like, I don't know. Yep. I think they're really cool cards. I think they're fun. These are cards, and this like kind of gets back to my point of like, these are cards that you really don't see that often out in the wild. So the fact that you can have them here, and the fact that you can actually cast them, right?
Sure.
Somewhat consistently.
Yeah. The kind of the way that I like to operate with this card is I'll play it, and then you just wait.
Yes.
Like you said, it's a rattlesnake. You just hold on, and then it's like, hey, if you're gonna bounce everything, I'm gonna make you discard your hand. Right. Or it's like you draw a bunch of cards, I'm going to make you discard your hand. Like, this is one of the few that I will say is the biggest terrorist card
for sure.
out of the Mugens. Because the other ones, and we may or may not get to them, can do some cool stuff. Right. But it's not like opponents get rid of your hand.
This is the one that's the other Mugen. I'm not sure about the other 2 off the top of my head, but like the other 2 are very like U effects that are big, right? Which in that case you can like, it's kind of, you can take it or leave it. Whereas this one you can really like you can really drive the speed of the game and like put people on their heels, right? Like, do you really want board wipe? Do you really want a rift? Because I can just do this again next turn.
Yeah, and we already went past the grain bill, but I have like Mugen of Seeing Winds in the deck, which is to remove a divinity counter and draw a card for each permanent you control, which is phenomenal. I mean, usually when I do that, I'm drawing like 19 or 20 cards, but that doesn't impact my opponents at all. That just maybe gets me a little closer to winning. So yeah, this Mugen is one that your opponents see, and it's like, counter on sight. If someone has a counter spell, for the love of Christ, get rid of them.
Totally agree. So it's a blast.
Cool. So my last one that I was kind of scared you're going to go down, but it's another modality card. We've decided this is what this podcast likes. We're talking about Sylvan Reclamation.
Oh yeah, we've talked about this one before. This card is. I
feel like this is. We may have said this before. I think this is underplayed. It's only a color.
I completely agree.
3 colorless Silencia, green-white. It's an instant, and it says exile up to 2 artifacts and or enchantments. So you can go 2 or 1/1 or 0/2.
Yep.
But then it has basic land cycling to top it off. So if you kept that risky 2-lander and you don't get the third land on turn 3, cycle it away, and then you get that land and you're right back on. But at no point later in the game are you not going to have an artifact or enchantment or one of each to need to exile. Right. Exile's amazing.
And like you said, you can get 2 of either, you can get 1 of either, right? So it just does everything that you want, right? If you can, so in my opinion, I think Return to Dust is like the mono white and those colors kind of premier removal. But if you can run green and white, I would run this over Return to Dust every single time. Like this is, I think, in my opinion, and granted, like people will be like, oh, you can't use it like the first few turns of the game. And you're like, sure, but I don't care about exiling a Soul Ring. Oh, I really got this guy. I got a Utopia Sprawl and a Soul Ring. This game is over, right? Oh no, like you want it, like you'll use this early to get that land that you want, or use this later to be like Darksteel Forge, adios, and like Omniscience, adios, or whatever. You know what I mean? Really underplayed. It's $1. Let's start picking them up, guys. Let's get these before they go up.
Cool. Well, that's going to wrap up the hot profile. And then we're going to head over to how this deck kind of wins. Sort of. So sometimes I start doing rigmaroles and they're like, can you win yet? And I'm like, no. But let's figure out how we can get there. I'll start this off with a card that Miguel from California introduced to us in his Ramos deck. One of the best 5-color tutors in existence. Mm-hmm. We're talking about Conflux. 3 colorless Wooburg, white, blue, black, red, green. It's a sorcery, and it's $1.20, super cheap.
Very cheap, yeah.
And it states: search your library for a white card, a blue card, a black card, a red card, a green card. Reveal those cards, put them into your hand, and shuffle your library. The thing that is sweet with this is at whatever point you are in the game that you cast this, I have quite a few what you would call gold cards, ones that share color types. And yes, you can get a Fey Burrow Elder for white, and then maybe go for green, for example, and then go get Austere Command for white.
Right, totally.
Nothing says you can't do this. And a lot of times, once you resolve Conflux, if you have 1 Wooburg left, you have 1.
Yeah, you're good to go.
No one can stop you.
And even not, like, I think this also kind of sets up, I like this for a lot of reasons. That's one of them. And sometimes, especially in our play group right now, we're playing a lot of decks that are kind of sitting on its laurels, where I like how this is like, this really moves the deck forward, right? Where it's like, hey guys, like, I'm going to show you what I'm going to do next turn, and what do you got, right? Like, let's move this game along. It's going to be over now.
Like, oh, Nathan, you're going to drain me with Sir Conrad? Well, eat my shorts. I'm going to dread Cacodemon.
Yeah, exactly.
My shorts.
So, no, I like, it's really cool. Again, it's like, This is again another great card, just like Interpret the Signs, that like really only has a home in this deck. Like you could argue where you could put it in other 5-color decks, but it's like
Ramos.
Very true, Ramos. Yeah, but like this is not one of those like 5-color cards where like I'm playing 5 colors, it's going in immediately, right? Like
Najila, you're not putting in that deck.
Absolutely, but the fact that you can do this for 5 instead of 8 in and of itself is huge.
Ooh, I just thought of something. If you wanted to, you'd have to put the money into the mana base. Could this work in a 5-color slivers? Because you could go get all the lords.
Yeah, and they're usually lower costed. Just saying.
Ooh.
Think about it.
Okay, maybe it has more homes than we thought.
Roll that around. But for the most part, it's mostly just staying in this deck and Ramos.
That's fair. Well, what is your first yeast card you want to talk about?
So I want to talk about, I think this is the only card of this type that you have in the deck, which is shocking for you, especially considering the colors that you have to play with. We are talking the only Planeswalker in the deck, Noko Bolas God Pharaoh. And I'm going to have to pull him up on Scryfall because there's no chance in hell I can read that. So give me 1 second here. So Noko Bolas God Pharaoh is a mythic. He costs 4 colorless in Grixis. That is blue, black, red. Legendary Planeswalker Bolas, and comes in with 7 loyalty counters on it. So this is also one of the few that have 4 abilities, and they're pretty much all good.
Yeah.
So +2 is target opponent exiles cards from the top of his or her library until he or she exiles a non-land card. Until end of turn, you may cast a card without paying its mana cost. let's spin the wheel, baby. Let's go. And then you get like a rampant growth, and you're like, well, I'm out of basics. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. So that one's like very targeted, right? Kind of like the funnest one of these. +1. Each opponent exiles 2 cards from his or her hand. Each opponent exiles. It's insanity, right? Like, no choice of getting them back. They're gonna have to make a decision. Especially if you get this out early, it's bonkers. -4 deals 7 damage to target opponent or creature an opponent controls, which in my opinion is like kind of the most bland out of all these. But again, like if you need to snipe something, you can snipe something, right? Like 7 damage will get just about anything. If you're getting close to the brink on Voltron damage and they don't have a way to get it haste, let's get rid of that. And then finally, -12, which is not that far off when you cast it. Exile each non-land permanent your opponent's control. So I don't love that one. I'm glad it's not exile each permanent, but I mean, again,
each permanent would be too ridiculous.
So it's just an awesome card. Like, this is another one that's like, I think it's a really good card, but it's kind of hard to slot into decks just because it is so prohibitively expensive. Even though,
I mean, it's basically Bolas Tribal or can I cheat stuff out?
I totally agree with that. So, and it comes in at $7 right now, which I think is kind of fair-ish price for it.
It's $11. Well, the copy I have is $11.
Oh, because you have the fancy whatever one, but the normal one for
San Diego Comic-Con
for us plebeians, for us BTLs, if you will, you can get it for $7. So
the funny thing about this card is every time I've cast it in a game, it's really just more of a I cast it, I'll plus it to something. Nothing really usually happens.
Oh, that's a bummer.
It's not. It's. I'll say this. It scares my opponents more than it benefits me. It's definitely one of those, I see a kid down the street holding what I think is a machete, so I'm going to call the cops, but then they show up, it's a Halloween prop that's made out of plastic.
Right, or like perhaps a Snickers bar. So
yes,
but I think like that
or we live in Kansas, a barbecue rib.
Very good point. But I think if you look at the cards we've talked about, like most of them have kind of had that effect, right? Where it's like, this is a card that's going to this is a card that's either going to distract your opponents, force them to take care of it, or, kind of helps set the tone for what your opponents are trying to do and stop them from doing it. So I think it's a great inclusion. I know you love I know you love your Planeswalkers, so I'm just happy to see it.
Yeah, and I mean, the reason it's in the yeast section is because its 2 pluses, in my opinion, are backbreaking. Either exiling, because, okay, sure, I could cheat it out with Jodah turn 5, and you're going to have a grip, and sure, exiling 2 is probably not going to be the end of the world. It'll be kind of a jab in your side, but that's also magical Christmas land that I get it out turn 5.
Yeah.
If you think about it, realistic in the probability, it's going to come out turn 9 through 15 most likely, and by then you should have a smaller grip. So the exiling 2 cards can be a lot more damaging because it's like, I got this, and maybe one of them's a Cyclonic Rift to save me. Well, once this resolves, I get to activate it before you can do your Rift. So, kick rocks, you can't really do anything to stop me. And then the +2 for the exile, the top off the library, that's also phenomenal because you get to pick your opponents. Right. And a lot of times I do these effects based on the decks you're playing, not because I want it, because we've talked about it. I love exiling your stuff and keeping it in exile. So, you know what? You might be playing your Duretti deck, might not have Darksteel Forge out yet, and you know what? I'll just choose BigTuck. You may not be the best option, but I know if you just get that one draw, you could potentially win the game, and maybe this will stop you from winning the game.
And it also, like, if you're like mana hungry, the fact that it can still bin, it exiles lands too, like that in and of itself is also, like, this could be, the +2 could be like a 2-for potentially, right? It probably won't be about the time where you get it down, but this is a really cool card. I don't think we've seen it anywhere. We probably won't see it ever again, so just want to bring it to
I think technically it was in the Nicol Bolas deck that you were going for.
Oh, perfect.
But,
But then I'll keep on living the truth. I've never seen it, nor do I ever want to see it again.
So my next yeast card is a card that actually can win the game, and typically this is the one that I say, okay, I do this and I win. Do you want me to play it out? We're talking about Sorenson Unsealing.
Ding, 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 ding. Yes, yes.
That's a matchup.
So shout out to Forrest A2 Wong and your stupid Maelstrom Wanderer deck that you threw together. This is the best card in that deck, and I hate you for it. So I hope you're happy.
So it's 3 colorless red. It's a red enchantment from M19, sitting at 70 cents. Very cheap, very affordable. Whenever you cast a creature spell with power 4, 5, or 6, Sorenson Unsealing deals 4 damage to any target. Seems decent. Yeah. Whenever you cast a creature spell with power 7 or greater, Sorenson Unsealing deals 4 damage to each opponent, creature, and planeswalker. So good. Your opponents, your creatures and planeswalkers they control. So we're gonna do a little deal here. We're gonna go in and BigTuck without you doing any kind of math. I want you to take a guess. I got technically 22 creatures in the deck. How many would meet that higher condition of power 7 or greater?
You have 22. 12.
You're spot on the money.
Yes! Yes, sir!
So you basically got slightly over 50% of the deck that can use that bigger effect, and that's traditionally how I win the game, because it's later in, could tie into another East card I'm going to talk about, but you start dumping these bigger things out there, and it just starts doming everyone like an equal opportunity employer.
Yeah, and like it's just even and I guarantee if you like spread it out to the 4, 5, or 6, I guarantee that's probably like 18, right?
No, I think that's all of them except
Bloom
for
Tender,
Bloom Tender.
Well, and
Favorite Holder can enter.
Might be able to get there. So it's like it's just a great card. Like, again, modal, everything does something in it. And like 4 damage, if it was like 2, it's like, all right, whatever. But 4, like that wipes out elves, that wipes out zombies, that wipes out beasts, that wipes out rhinos, right? Like pretty much any token deck will get hosed by this being cast once.
Yep.
And the fact that if you're playing against planeswalkers, 4 is a lot on most planeswalkers to get ticked down once or twice a turn. Just amazing.
And it's an enchantment, so it's way harder to get rid of than other stuff.
Absolutely. So no, this card's really great. I think this is the lowest I've seen its price. So if you've been eyeballing it, this is the time to grab it.
Well, what is your last Yeast card?
Okay, so this card, for some reason that is beyond me and makes me not happy, is $44. He's a big boy, and he is awesome. Well, they are awesome. We are talking Zakama Primal Calamity.
$44.
He's a big boy. We've talked a lot in the past about how I think we're mostly big fans of larger boys, if you will, and the argument could be made that he is the biggest. So Zakama is a monster. So for 6 colorless and Naya, that's green. That's like, well, I hate that color combination, so that adds up. For red, green, and white, he is a 9/9 legendary creature, Elder Dinosaur.
9.
Vigilance, Reach, and Trample, and then he's got something else which I'll get back to in a second. 2 colors.
Hold on. On May 14th, at the time of this cast, that was 7 days ago. This card was $29.
What in the world is going on?
We're living in the dark. We're living in the dark.
Like it's been on a steady climb since December. December it was $15, and then it's gotten up to $29.
I've never seen it like around 20, 25.
Yeah, and the last week. Yeah, on the 18th it was $35, and then on the 19th, $45.
COVID is killing Magic card prices right now.
Seriously, it's happening? A freaking nightmare.
Dude, quit spending your stimulus checks on cards.
Reopen the warehouses. Okay, so 9/9 Vigilance, Trample, Reach, which on its own is good enough. Then he's got another thing we'll get into. But again, how much do we love our modal cards? 2 colorless and a red.
We love them.
Deals 3 damage to target creature. 2 colorless and a green. Destroy target artifact or enchantment. 2 colorless and a white, you gain 3 life. We'll skip that last one. However, when he enters the battlefield, if you cast it, untap all lands you control. So it's just insane where it's like you pay 9. Well, really, let me rephrase that. You tap. Let's say you tap 10, right? Let's say it's late game, right?
Yeah.
Or like you have your mana doublers out or whatever. So let's say you tap 10. You pay 5. float 5, untap, and then you have another 10 to go with. So that's
3 Jodah activations you got floating out there.
That's like best case scenario. Worst case scenario, that's piles of activations to clear the board, blow up problematic things, or gain a bunch of life. Again, we're not going to talk about that one. But moreover, it's like, even if this is, and I think this is why this card I think is kept so expensive, is just because like in and of itself on its cast, just by itself, you can interact with the board so much, right? Like that turn it comes out, you can get to the point where like a 9/9 reach trampler might just win you the game. Right? If you can clear the board, if someone's like dirtling a little bit, you need to get through the propaganda, you can zap that real quick. But again, the best case scenario in Magic Christmas Land is like, okay, I get this for free and get to do Jodah 2 more times.
Yeah, well, and I think the reason also, and you kind of alluded to it, but didn't hit it on the head, that it's so not $44, but the reason it was $20 to $25 is because if you run this as your commander, no matter what your command tax is, as long as you're not using artifacts, you basically cast your commander for free.
Exactly, totally.
Every single time. So it's phenomenal. But in this deck, a lot of times it's like, I always get this card later in the game, and it's like, I'm going to float 15, right. Cast a comma for 5, untap, float another 15. Oh, that's 5 Jodah activations. Go to hell. I win.
We're good here. Yeah, we're good. So no, it's so awesome. I'm sure you're happy you picked one up when you did. And again, it's like it's a card you really don't, for how ubiquitous it is. Like everyone has a comma story. Everyone knows what this card is if they don't know exactly what it does.
Yeah.
It is cool that like this is a deck where it runs in the 99, where you will be able to see it. You will be able to play it. You will be able to see like its ultimate power. So,
and I love that it's that 3 colors, because if I do a conflux, I can go pick other things in the white, green, or red, and still be able to get a Zakama to potentially, if I have one more Wooburg left, cast them. Yeah, I'm tapped out, but boom, I'm untapped and I'm doing it some more.
Absolutely. So awesome inclusion.
And you included ubiquitous, which is that vernacular, I believe.
Some people,
that's that toilet paper of the day.
Some people say that I have a bit of a rich lexicon.
All right. Well, for my last East card, I had to talk about it, because it completely makes this kind of deck just go ham. And I'm not just here to talk about interesting cards. I also want people to hear about how you win with this deck. Omniscience. We're talking about Omniscience. And I got a fancy copy that you can barely read.
It's the 3rd most win more card in the deck. So have your fun.
7 colorless. Oh, really? Boo. I believe you have a Crater Hoof, Behemoth, and Reese.
Yeah.
Go to hell.
That too. That's fine. Boo.
Know your place, Squee!
I'll boo my own.
We're talking 7 colorless, blue. It's an enchantment, and it basically says you may cast spells from your hand without paying their mana cost. And that is big, because you can't, I don't know why you would need Jodah at that point, but if you just needed one more blocker and you're tapped out, you can't do it.
With that last 4 commander damage in Jodah, thank God.
But a lot of times, Omniscience, when I get it, that's the card that honestly, when it hits the field, this play group knows, Mr. Combo resolved Omniscience, do we lose? Right. Because it's not like, I don't have any combos in the deck. Like, there are no infinite combos in the deck. There's not even 2 card combos in the deck that are like, that's good interaction.
You showed a shockingly high amount of restraint for your $2,500 deck.
I know. But it's one of those things, though, that this card hits, and it's like, are you gonna Ancient Excavation and dig into whatever you need? Are you gonna interpret the signs? Maybe if I didn't get this with Conflux, are you going to Conflux and win? Are you going to Expropriate since we're done? There's just a lot of win more, because the way this deck wins, it's digging and digging and digging, and honestly, it's either burn you out with Sorenson Unsealing, or if I get enough big creatures on the battlefield, I swing in for damage. That's the only 2 ways you can win in the deck.
Or you get enough big creatures that have abilities like the Mugen, where you're like, I'm gonna strip your hands, I'm gonna blow up your boards, and then go in, right? Yeah.
So fine, we'll do it in 3 categories. I hate you for damage. I Sorenson Unsealing you for damage. You concede.
And to your point, like most of the times when you concede, it's just because you're like, I have 6 9/9s and you have nothing because I'm going to wipe out your board, right? And you're like, all right, we don't need to see this through. The only thing I will say about Omniscience that I don't like about it as a card, I don't own a copy of it. I just don't like the fact that like when you play this, it's like it's kind of like Primal Surge, where like when you play it, it's just kind of like, okay, we need to respond right now or the game is over, right? Although I have seen you play Omniscience before. I think in your enchantment deck.
I was about to say, I've done it and I have not won.
In your enchantment deck, you're like Omniscience, and we're like, oh my god, what's going to happen now? And you're like, pass. And we're like, okay. So I think Omniscience is fine. I think now that it's like $6 or maybe, or who knows, it could be.
I believe 6 to 42 sounds about right.
It could be, yeah, $17. There you go.
Or 6 to 86.
Oh my gosh.
Just for the record.
This one is
17.
It's 17 now, and in April it was 10.
What?
What a farce.
The world is upside down.
Yeah, it really is. So, no, it does make sense in the way that this deck flows. I hate this card, but that's fine.
That's fine.
Totally
That's fine. It's fine. Well, since we're so fine, we're going to wrap up the East package, and now we're going to head over to spices. There are some spicy cards in here. Some of them are actually cool. Some of them are just big mana things. It's like, I guess you put it in because it's big mana. But BigTuck, where did you go?
So I've never seen you cast this card. I'm the only person that I've ever seen actually have this card resolve. And it was like, when we were talking about this was the first card I thought up that I'd put in. But you beat me to it. So I think this card is hysterical. I think this card is shockingly good. And is 56 cents. It's a sorcery. And we were talking about... Are we on point here again?
1, 2, 3.
Unexpected results. Yes! That's like half
So
the
I have
deck
actually
we're
cast
points.
this... I have cast this card so many times, and let me tell you, it always goes back to hand. Why don't you go ahead and read its border, and I'll read the fine print since you're blind.
Unexpected results is a rare from one of the Ravnicas, I think. 2 colorless and Simic. It's a sorcery, and it's costing you a fat 56 cents.
So it states, shuffle your library and then reveal the top card. If it's a non-land card, you may cast it without paying its mana cost. If it's a land card, you may put it onto the battlefield and then return unexpected results to its owner's hand. I can tell you for a fact, BigTuck.
This ever?
No, I'm not saying never. Just more often than not, I always hit lands. There was one time, BigTuck, in one turn, I cast this 3 times in a row. Land, land, land. Or it might have been like land, cultivate. It was just like,
awesome.
F me.
But like, so again, this is like...
It's a fun card. This is a fun card.
So this again like fulfills this deck so perfectly, where it's like, it actually, even if you're hitting lands, it's really like, unless you're desperate, it still pushes you forward, right? Like closer to 2 Jodah activations.
Hey, thins the deck
out, absolutely. But like the upside of it, like granted, if you hit like Bloom Tender or Cultivate, you're like, oh, awesome. You know, what are you gonna do? But the fact that like you could hit a Zakama off it, you could hit a Mojin or any of these things, right?
A Rise of the Dark Realms.
Absolutely, like all these huge backbreaking spells that you can get in this deck, which the deck is like specifically catered for.
Sure.
It's just awesome. Like it's a card that's really interesting because like I have it in my Chaos deck because it fits that perfectly as well, right? So I think a lot of times when you look at this card, you kind of brush it off as just being like, oh, it's whatever, it's just for like noobs or it's a sucker's trap. But you're like, not really. When you build a deck where you're like, if I do hit something, if you hit something that's a real card off this that you can cast, it's going to affect the game in a big way. Right, like even a Sarkhan's or even like the what we were talking about, the Sarkhan's Unsealing, right? Like any of these cards that are in here outside of like a handful, they're gonna do something, and it's gonna be big and splashy. So the fact that like worst case scenario, you ramp it or you Sylvan Scrying onto the battlefield for 4, and you run so many non-basics in here, it's like that's actually like not bad. But like just the upside of it's awesome. So this. As soon as I figured out this card existed, it's been one of my pet cards, and it's just tough because it's not a card you can just run in every deck.
Yeah, no. I mean, you're on point, and it's funny when you were talking and leading up to it, and you were like, "I've never seen you cast this," and blah blah blah. And I was like, "Okay, is he talking about Worst Fears? Is he talking about like Mugen of Life's Web?" But then you were like, "It's a sorcery," and it's like, "Oh God, I know what he's talking about."
I almost put in Worst Fears because you gave me so much shit for playing that in a deck 5 years ago. Or in my partner's deck,
not a good card.
You gave me so much gruff for running it, and here it is staring me in the face.
Yeah, it's getting cut. It's in here because it's a big splashy spell. But anyways, yeah, unexpected results. Very good card. It's definitely one of those I would say doesn't go in every deck that can run blue and green. Right. I'm surprised I don't run it in my Atraxa Super Friends deck. That actually seems like that would be a decent fit.
I would agree with that, especially because if you hit a Planeswalker, they immediately come in and you can proliferate them if you have your Atraxa out.
Yep. Or even the board wipes that I have in that deck don't affect me because it's not permanent based. They're creature exile or bounce based. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so I might actually have to pick up an extra copy before it apparently spikes to $39. Well, guys, that's going to wrap up the spice package. Now we're going to over to the bottle capping, and as a reminder, these are going to be BigTuck's and myself's recommendations and cuts to the deck that are under $5, under $50, and a personal recommendation.
I actually did bring out the Big Daddy Warbucks on the personal, so I'm pretty happy about that.
Ooh, nice. Let's get to those shears. I'm going to actually cut Tempt with Discovery. So Tempt with Discovery is 3 colorless green sorcery, and it has a tempting offer. Search your library for a land card, put it onto the battlefield. Each opponent may search his or her library for a land card and put it onto the battlefield, and for each opponent to search the library this way, I may search my library again that way to go grab lands and put them onto the battlefield, and then each player who searches their library shuffles it. $2.76. The reason I'm going to cut it is because, at least for our play group, and those are the people I primarily play with, when they see this card, they give me the middle finger and say, I'm not going to go get anything because you're going to go get dual lands.
It's like that scene from The Matrix where he's like, how about this? How about I give you the finger and you give me my phone call?
And that's basically what happens when I cast Tempt with Discovery. I've seen people in our playgroup cast it, or I've cast it in other decks, and it's like, oh, I mean, what's the worst he's going to go get? A couple forests, a mountain, maybe a dual land. But in this deck, everyone knows I have every dual land under the GD sun. So they're not going to give it to me. They
don't want to see $400 or $600 to slap on the battlefield.
So basically, I'm paying 4 mana for one card. That's not a good rate. So here's what we're going to go get. It's a card. It's new. I actually kind of talked about it earlier. We're going to go replace it with a Golos Tireless Pilgrim.
Oh, okay.
So, 5 colorless legendary artifact creature scout. When Golos ETBs, you may search your library for a land card and put it on the battlefield tapped, then search your library. Or shuffle your library. So it basically accomplishes the same thing for 1 extra mana. But now I got a 3/5 body on the battlefield. But here's why I like it a little bit better. 2 colorless Wooburg, white, blue, black, red, green. Exile the top 3 cards of my library, and I may play them this turn without paying their mana costs. We talked about how the unexpected results, I'm probably going to get bangers out of it. Well, I feel like Golos for 7 mana is better than me doing 15 mana with Jodah. Just a thought.
No, I agree with that. And on top of that, if you're exiling lands, like a lot of times the issue you run in with Golos is you exile cards that you need, right? Like, oh, there goes my win con, right? But in this one, it's like, okay, you exile 2 lands and get one of these other horrible monstrosity cards that you have in the deck, right? So no, I agree with that. And like you said, like if you can get 3 for 7, that's absurd. But even then, like you're either going to be on curve, slightly above it, or way below it if you hit a card off of this, right? So, and again, like, you're only running 37 lands. You don't care about your lands. It's not like you need one of them to win, right? And it's not like you play a land, do this, and then you're like, oh, my guy's Cradle. You're like, it doesn't matter. So, I'm on board, especially...
Well, and it does say play them this turn without paying their mana cost. So, I can play one of the lands because it's not a cast. Right, so, it's not like if I get 3, it's like, oh, poop, I lost 3 lands. I only lose 2.
So like, yeah, I think it's a good inclusion, and it's a fun legendary card.
Well, yeah, and it kind of, and I don't have top deck manipulation in the deck, so it kind of gives you that unexpected results. Like, hey guys, I'm gonna pay 7.
Spin it.
See what happens. Well, what is your under 5 cut? And what are you going to add?
I was trying to stick it to you with a couple of these because I figured we could just go through them real quick.
How is that fun?
So we are actually going to cut. I know you probably already have this card, and for those who are on the Discord, you'll know exactly what's going to be happening here. So we're going to cut Violent Ultimatum. So it's 2 black, 3 green, 2 green for destroy 3 target permanents. Well,
Oh, it's so good.
yeah, it really had its fun in the time. We're gonna cut this. It really had its time in the sun. Seems like it does a lot, but I think that we have one better. So for the exact same converted mana cost, except it's 2 red, 3 white, 2 black. Ruinous Ultimatum. Sorcery, destroy all non-land permanents your opponents control. So as soon as this card came out, everyone pretty much Ruinous Ultimatum was like, all right, well, I guess I'll just go play in the kiddie pool. Have you ever seen the movie 3 Brothers or 4 Brothers with Mark Wahlberg?
Yes.
Okay, so when this card came out, it pretty much went to Violent Ultimatum. It's like, go eat with the kids. You're hungry now? Go eat the kids' table. You know what I'm talking about? So this new ultimatum cycle, I think for the most part, is pretty awesome. This is the one. There's this one, and spoiler alert, I have one more to add in that like really push this deck through. Right? Violent Ultimatum is fine, but the fact that you're just trading 3 for everything is just a huge shift.
So the only thing I'll say to that is that this is non-land. The other one's just permanent.
Okay, so in the one chance you're getting Electrochasm.
No. I wasn't even thinking that. We've been playing some of our cohorts in our play group that have had the lands where they can bring creatures back from the graveyard. And like Sir Conrad, he has like one of those where it's like pay some X mana, discard a card, bring it back. Right. But we just died to that the other night. To Nathan, and I think the destroy all non-land permanents also with our play group, because we have so much like of this BS like taxing or what do they call that? What Orzhov is just known for. Of course, I'm blanking on it because I've had death and taxes. I've had a beer, so I'm feeling a little fuzzy. But when you destroy all non-land permanents, when like a Sir Conrad deck is out or another Orzhov deck, I could just die because of all the 7 creatures died, so you're going to lose 7 life, and I'm going to gain 7. So that is a very niche case, and I get that. And I think Ruinous has a home in this deck. You could almost turn this into an ultimatum deck.
Should.
But I don't know if I would cut that for that. I would probably try to find a different quote-unquote board wipe. Sure. Like maybe get rid of like an In Garuk's Wake for it.
There's a better option than that, which we'll be getting to. But I hear what you're saying, but I'm thinking if we take away the play group that we have or whatever decks we've been seeing, sure. In my opinion, this is just a straight upgrade to that one. So what do you got for your under 50?
So my under 50, I'm gonna cut Worst Fears.
I
don't like the card. 7 colorless.
Because you don't like having fun.
Yeah, it's so much fun. 7 colorless black. It's a sorcery. It's a mythic. And it says you control target player during that player's next turn. Exile Worst Fears.
It's so fun.
Well, here's the thing. I don't care that it like costs so much. I don't like the fact that it exiles. Because it's just like, it's a one-trick pony and it does it to one opponent. That doesn't do anything at all. It's going.
When I played this card, it actually won me the game. So I stand by it. But I know you hate this card, and to your point, this card is borderline impossible to play in our current setup on the internet. So it's a timely cut.
So I'm going to add in a card that Command Zone previewed for Theros Beyond Death. Everyone freaked out about it because you know what green needs? Not double mana. We need triple mana. We're going to add in Nyx Bloom Ancient. Sure. 4 colorless, green, enchantment creature, elemental, mythic. $14.
Oh my gosh.
Yikesies. But it has trample. It's a 5/5. But it says if you tap a permanent for mana, it produces 3 times as much of that mana instead. And the reason I like it is because it does say permanent. So my Fairbarrow Older and my Bloom Tender now tap for triple. On top of all of my lands, which that will, if I can land a Nyx Bloom Ancient, I should win that turn or the next turn. Because I get so many Jodah activations that I can at least do some stuff. Plus, if you, like how you've said, sometimes I have like a card in pass, he's still a 5/5 with trample. Absolutely. Nothing to snuff at.
And then that also sets you up for your next turn where you can just be like, oh, I'm just going to go ham, right? Like, if you don't kill this or me this next turn, it's over because I'm going to activate Jodah 14 times.
Yeah, and if you think about it, usually when you land this, you probably have your Wooburg anyways. So once again, we're putting our opponents in a modality situation.
Totally.
Do I get rid of the mana tripler and he'll just do Jodah next turn? Or do I get rid of Jodah, make him burn mana with Nyx Bloom, but then he may still get to Jodah? Like, I got to figure out which way I want to go. So I think it's a good replacement for Worst Fears.
Sure.
All right, well, what's your under 50?
All right, so we are going to cut out of this deck immediately. Vorinclex, Voice of Hunger. You're a bad person.
Yeah, not happening.
And I hate this card, and you're a bad person for playing it. Also, you are wrong. This is a hop card if one has ever been printed. So 6 colorless green for a 7/6 trample. Whenever you tap a land for mana, add 1 mana to your mana pool of any color, of any type that land produced.
It's 100% a green card in this deck.
You think that's wait. Oh, you're right. So it is a green card because it's just flavor text. Oh wait, it's not italicized. Whenever an opponent taps a land for mana, this land doesn't untap during his controller's next untap step. It's a complete win more card. It's super annoying to play against. I hate it. So if it was,
I think you run it in a deck.
I don't own a copy of this card intentionally. I don't. You want me to look at my inventory right now?
Well, what are... Yeah, I want you to go open up your 42 decks and show me.
They're all updated, so I can look right now. So, Vorinclex... Anyway, I don't have one because they're super expensive, and they're also the worst cards ever been printed. So, I'm going to cut it. We've kind of had this conversation with the card I cut a gazillion years ago in your Savine deck. So, I'm going to cut it for another Ultimatum because I am pushing this deck into Ultimatum Tribal all day. So, Emergent Ultimatum. So, Emergent Ultimatum is 2 black, 3 green, 2 blue. Search your library.
Well, this definitely couldn't have been in the Savine deck.
No, but the idea is, just wait.
Oh, okay.
So... search your library for up to 3 monocolored cards with different names and exile them. An opponent chooses one of those cards. Shuffle that card into your library. You may cast the other cards without paying their mana cost. Exile this card. So similar in Savine with the 3 wishes or whatever, where you went and got the 3 cards. There's really never going to be, like, if you cast this right, and especially in this deck, there's never going to be a good option. You know what I mean? You're like, okay, here's your options. We can go get Mugen of Nightreach, Expropriate, and Jingataxis. Take your pick.
Or Omniscience.
Or exactly, right? So, like, I think, and it's kind of a cop out because it just came out and all that stuff. But, like, in reality, like, this is the deck to beat. Like, granted, you do have some multicolored cards that are beaters, and you also have a few artifacts and colorless cards that also are quite good. But for the most part, when you're casting this is again like another card. It's opponent modal, right? And I guarantee there's going to be many a hushed whisper amongst your opponents of which one's going to be the best one to get. But again, if you get 2 of these 3 cards you go select, the game is either going to be over or extraordinarily close to over that turn when you cast it. So I think in this deck it works great. Super fun card. And the fact that you can cast it for 5 and maybe have something else to do afterwards, it's just bonkers.
So I just thought of the worst 3 cards I could possibly pick. Blatant Thievery, Expropriate, Swarm Intelligence.
Oh.
What are you gonna pick?
That is bad. That is real bad. I will be honest. I'm not Blatant Thievery for me. I've had that card in a handful of decks. I've never really liked it. Again, in this deck, I think it works. But even then, like, there's no win. There's no win on that. You can't. Yeah,
on that 3 I just picked, there's no way. Not a single card.
That's awesome.
All right.
So, but it's great. Like, I'm pushing Ultimatum. And
I'm fine with that one. I got one sitting in the basement. I'm not going to cut Vorinclex for it. But well, I like having double mana because I need to be able to use Jodah as many times as I can. I don't really care what you're doing. That's the point. That's the point of what I'm supposed to do. Win. All right. Personal recommendation. I'm going to cut Nizal Primal Tide. We already talked about it. Sure. I'm going to cut the card. I think whatever. No. Quit being butthurt. It's just it doesn't do what the deck wants to do.
I'm just saying. I thought it was a very fun inclusion, and I'd like to keep it in, but I can understand why you're cutting it.
Yeah. So I'm going to cut it though for a card that I actually think will help me be able to actually say, hey, I win the game. Because too many times I play this deck and I'm just like, well, I don't know. Sure. And then you guys just scoop because you hate me. So I'm going to cut it for Maelstrom Wanderer. It seems perfect.
This was on mine as well, like my ideas.
5 colorless Teamer, blue, red, green, legendary creature, elemental, mythic. Cheapest copies, $10. Not terrible, but not cheap.
Right.
It's a 7/5, and I'm going to read it's what I think is relevant last. So it does have Cascades. When you cast a spell, exile cards from the top of your library to exile a non-land card that costs less. May cast without paying its mana cost. Put the exiled cards that I didn't cast on the bottom in a random order, and then do it again. And so we talked about how high my CMC is. I'm going to be able to hit most of the cards in my deck with the Cascade. Of course, it could just get me real butthurt, and I could hit a Cultivate and a Bloom Tender.
Right, for sure.
But the reason I want it in the deck is because that effect could be relevant, but the creatures you control have haste. Too many times I plop down all this fat stuff, and I'm like, pass.
Yeah.
And you guys are just like, what the hell, man? Can't you just win?
Yeah, just
and it's like,
something.
I can't.
Right,
I can't. I get it. I played 50 power and I can do nothing. So at least now with this card, I have multiple ways to dig through my deck. I have one way to at least tutor and go get it and still go get other things. It can actually help me win the game.
No, I agree. And like, I think that's a good point. The Cascade on this one, even if you hit like, you will get most of your cards, and you could get a huge banger, which is totally worth it in my opinion, right?
Sure.
If and the off chance you happen to go and hit like all your Eldrazi, and you're just like, okay, whatever. The creatures having haste, it being a 7/5, it being a big splashy card, totally on board with it in this deck. Like I think it's a great fit in it. I think it's a really interesting card. It also triggers Sarkhan on its own, which is big, right?
Yep.
So fits everything in this deck. I am all about it.
Cool. So you're not so upset I got rid of Nizal for a Maelstrom Wanderer.
I think you could cut burn clicks for this, and you'd be good.
Nah, that's all right. Well, what's your personal recommendation?
So we talked about how you do have a lot of these effects, and if you take my recommendation of switching these around and cutting whichever one you want, I think that we will have something that will do what you want. So I'm actually going to cut Plague Wind. So Plague Wind is 7 black, destroy all creatures you don't control. They can't be regenerated.
Which is irrelevant in our group.
I completely agree. And like Garruk's Wake, as mentioned earlier, does this better. Ruinous Ultimatum does this better, right? I think that this card's fine, and it's a big splashy card that you want to play and all that. I just think that there's cards in here that are already better. So I'm going to put a card that's going to put another dent in your old pocketbook. And it's a part of Magic history, and it shares something very close to what Zakama does, which I think you'll like. So I'm going to say that you put in Time Spiral. So 4 colorless, blue, it's a rare, part of the reserved list, a slice of Magic history for $66. So when you cast it, exile Time Spiral. Each player shuffles their hand and graveyard into the library, then draw 7 cards. You untap up to 6 lands.
Oh, that's kind of interesting.
So as we talked about before, you don't, outside of Rise of the Dark Realms, you really don't have any sort of graveyard recursion, right? So that could be a benefit of like, and it's kind of an ancillary one, right? Of just getting the things in your yard. Moreover,
and honestly, I would rather swap Spiral for Rise of the Dark Realms because I have decks that I'd like to put Rise into that I'm not willing to spend the money to get Rise. So yeah, instead of buying another Rise, I'll just spend triple the price and get a Time Spiral.
So, but like, and again, we talked like if you do run out of draw, this deck's dead in the water, right? So you're getting a fresh grip. But then again, you can do your kind of gimmicky with the untap of lands, where you tap them down for double, untap them, it pays for itself, and then with the new cards you draw, you're ready to go off to the races again. If you have like your Mirari's Wake, your Zendikar Resurgence of the world, you're already overpaying for it. You draw a new 7 cards, and now you can do Jodah at least once, sometimes more than that, right? So I feel like it kind of fits a lot of slots in this deck, and it's a big flashy card you don't see very often, and it's a piece of Magic history. So to me, it just felt like this is like a really good card in this deck, right? If you can pay it, and if you can pay it for 5, that's great. But I mean, even if you're hard casting this for 6, seems like it does a lot.
Yeah, I really like it. I'm just curious why you didn't pick Echo of Eons.
Because Echo of Eons doesn't give you the untap.
Okay, so you think the extra $50 is worth the untapping 6 lands? That's
between you and Mr. JP Morgan Chase, if you will, or wherever you do your banking. But no, I think again, like, you have your mana doublers, you have things that can do stuff with that mana that's not like the Zakamas of the world and whatnot. So for me, being able to get those untaps and then go back to the races makes this card worth it, right?
Yeah, no. That's very intriguing, and I'm all about getting pieces of Magic history as they continue to rise in price.
Especially now.
You know, it'd be
$66 now is fine. That's no problem.
It'd be interesting to see, though, because I'm trying to think back. I don't think there's been a time that I've had this deck and things have been in the yard and it's like later in the game and it's like, man, I really wish I had that. So I'm almost wondering, like, okay, do I put this in purely just to get a new grip? Or do I go with something that's half the mana cost, like a Wheel of Fortune, if I just want to get a new grip? I think I'll have to play Jodah a few times and try to figure out, do things actually go to the graveyard that I care about to get that shuffled back in?
I still think the best part is the untap. Like, I think that's what really sets us apart from those other ones. Granted, it's a little more expensive. It's a little cheaper in money than Wheel of Fortune. But just
Wheel of Fortune, in my mind, was just it's half the mana cost. So it's like, okay, sure, this untaps 6, but I save 3, so it's like, how do you judge that?
But and the fact that it's 6 means that you'll at least have one Jodah activation left over.
Yeah.
Right? So that's what I thought. I think and it's a big, flashy. People are gonna be like, "Whoa, you have a time spiral? I haven't seen one of those in a gazillion years." Which is one of the benefits of this deck, that you have these kind of cool, expensive cards that you get that you can kind of be like, "Oh yeah, I got one, no big deal." Go.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Well, apparently, since I got to spend $70 on a card, thanks for making it until the end. And as promised, here's some details from our giveaway from our sponsor, Level 1 Game Shop. We're going to be giving away a Mystery Commander 20 deck, along with CMD Tower playmat and sleeves. To enter, it's extremely simple. Just help promote the content we produce. You get an entry for every interaction you do with us on social media and Patreon. We're going to announce the winner on MTG Action 4 News June 2nd and social media soon after. And yes, you're already thinking it. We're going to be doing giveaways like this each month. Could be a sweet little deck like this. Could be a sweet card. Just wait till you guys see what we're coming out with in June. You guys are going to be super hyped. It really depends on what our sponsor, Level 1 Game Shop, can provide. But you know what? We'd love that positive feedback, whether you're listening to us on YouTube or your podcast platform. If you enjoyed it, feel free to leave that positive feedback and a 5-star review to make other people find us as well. And if you'd like to know more ways you can reach out to us and enter into the contest, here's how you can do that. You can reach me at Mr. Combo number 5 on Twitter, all spelled out except for the 5. BigTuck, Mr. Moneybanks, where can they reach you?
I'm still pooping on Twitter every once in a while, so you can find me
once in a while
at BigTuck tweeting on Twitter.
Awesome. You can reach our main account at CMD Tower on Twitter as well. You can go to our website, cmdtower.com. You can basically just type us in anywhere on the internet. Commander Sphere, Mugen of Seeing Winds, Dig Through Time, Tower.com. Ooh, that happened. First try. And if you want to engage your awesome production team for your own future projects, how would they do that? Squee.
Oh, you can find me on Facebook or Instagram at Rich Chaos Records. You can find me at Dear Squee on the Twitter. You can find me at Dear Squee at cmdtower.com if you prefer to message me via email versus just message me. Other than that, here I am. Digitally. This is Digital Squee. Checking out.
Cool. He does music, he does podcasts, and he does have a full studio. If you want to be, I guess we're kind of slightly opening up, so if you want to show up in a trash bag, he is in the Kansas City metro area.
Yeah, I have
full body condom.
I hosted my first recording session in months, and
nice.
It was nice.
Well, if you want to support the show as well as hook up our sponsor, the orders you're already doing, head over to level1gameshop.com. When you place an order in the order notes, just type in CMD Tower so they know that you came from The Collective. Outside of their own storefront, they also do have a TCG store with over 99% accuracy rating and incredibly competitive prices. They also do carry that sweet CMD Tower playmat and sleeves we always rant and rave about, as well as everything else you need from a Magic the Gathering and other board game perspective. Another way that you can support us and help me get a time spiral is to head over to our Patreon, patreon.com/CMD Tower. We have several different reward tiers, from as simple as that Discord access to even getting that sweet guest spot on the sweet cast with your own sweet brew. As well as every tier does give you those additional entries into the monthly giveaways. And of course, thanks again to Pink Royal for the music you provide in the beginning and
See you in
end.
the next one.
So, BigTuck, JODAH'S Infinity Gauntlet, did he live up to his Thanos level expectations?
Yeah, I think so. Like I said, this is one of my least favorite decks of yours, but I will say it was fun to talk through it. if you can peer through the normal good stuffs, I think there are some like really fun cards. Interpret the Signs is awesome. A couple more in there, like seeing the Nicol Bolas, like it's you go through this jungle of horrible creatures, and then you find like, oh, this is this beautiful flower that you've chosen not to excavate for its cocaine properties. So like I know this is one of your favorite decks, and like I think you've done a cool job with it. So it's always fun. Like I think like the best example was like when you were playing against other people in Magic Fest KC and coming over and being like, well, this happened, and like hearing about that, like it's a lot more fun to hear that than play against it. So no, I know it's a deck you like, and it was fun to look through, and again, it's another deck that can make up more things about how expensive it is. So always,
that's fair. Front. Yeah, I can imagine that this is probably on the opponent front, a deck that you would probably say, tell me about the time that you played that, opposed to, let me tell you about the time that I played against that.
Sure.
So I could definitely see that. But, the thing that's interesting about the deck is, we didn't talk about it earlier. It's rated at like a 76 competitive level. And I will say it's a decent deck, but it doesn't have that CEDH, my win con is this.
Correct.
It's like, I guess I do stuff and hopefully smash face or make you quit.
And I think, and to that point, like each time I've seen this, I think I've seen different cards come out at different times that do big things, right? Like we didn't talk about it, but we have the green Mugen in here, which like once just like won the deck because it's a big beater and we couldn't do anything about it, right? So
sure.
So it is like it's very modal in that sense as well.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, it's definitely one that I don't think I've ever won the same way twice.
Yeah.
Which you could say that's exciting, but for me in my mind that gets a little frustrating because when we're an hour and a half, 2 hours in, it's like, holy hell, what do I need to do to win?
Right.
And it's like, I don't know. Like we didn't talk about it. I got Blightsteel Colossus, I guess that's a win con.
Right.
Like planted, I win, sort of. If you don't have creatures to block with, but hopefully some of these ultimatums and time spirals will help me get there.
I'll be smoothing out.
Well, without further ado, I am inevitable.